Michael Bisley asked, "Do you reckon he must be British? Do you reckon he just sits at his desk watching us complain for 15 plus minutes before each stream?" No, but I wish I could because there's clearly a whole pre-stream culture that pops up, mostly revolving around theorizing what happened to me, but also all sorts of other conversations. Anyway, we are pretty much starting stream on time today. Way. Sometimes shit just works out, you know? There we go. That should do it. That should do it. How long was I muted? Was I muted the entire time? Could you guys hear me at all? How long was I muted? Was I muted the entire time? Was I muted from the beginning? George C says Betty's talking bad about Wano. Like 3 minutes? Was there any period of time? Was there any period of time that I was not muted, or was I muted from the beginning of the stream? George D saying I was talking about how bad Wano is. No, I wouldn't mute for that. Maybe I'd have to mute for parts of that. Not the whole time? Alright. Well, I guess there's nothing I said that was important enough that needs repeating. I was mostly let's talk about the chapter. Alright, let's get the likes up to 100 real quick. Let's get the likes up to 100. I've been muted since Monday. That's funny. Alright, guys. Oh, yeah, pre-stream culture. Yeah, it's okay. I wish I had time to read pre-stream chat, but if I had time to do that, I would just start stream. Anyway, Isaac St. Charles, big fan from Malaysia. When you come, which state? Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to Penang, but I don't want to see you, so I will try to avoid you. I don't want to run into people I know. But, yeah, if you've got any tips. I mean, my mom's lived there for a year now. I'm going to be in Malaysia for 1 week. So let me give you guys a heads up. Christmas week, there will be no video. There will be no video Christmas week. Because it's not in the production schedule. It just can't happen. So Christmas week, there'll be no video. There's probably no chapter either. So we'll all just have to hang on till the end of the year. I am going to try and stream from Malaysia. So I will try to do streams. I will try to do the streams. At least covering chapters and such. At least Monday stream. Maybe Mondays. I'll try to cover streams. I'll try to do streams for sure. The internet there should be good enough to allow for that. We should be fine there. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Breezy2x, thanks for the 2. Do you think Kuma's more pure-hearted than Luffy? These things are complicated to say. I mean, there's things that you can see that are similar. For example, Kuma's moment this chapter. Like, I don't like scaling who's a better person than who, because it's just like, you know, it's just... Okay, so let's say, for example, this chapter, when it's explained by the Gorosei that, hey, Kuma, you're going to have to do this, this, and this if you want to save Bonnie, and then Kuma's like, he doesn't even mind. He's like, okay, so you can save her. That's all that matters, and he's happy. Right? He doesn't even think about the personal repercussions that he's about to, or the personal consequences that he's about to take upon himself, right? That's the same as, it's very similar to Luffy's reaction when he heard from Boa Hancock that, yeah, you can't go save your brother. I'm not going to give you a ship, or I can give you a ship for that, but then only if you pass up this chance to undo the petrification on Marguerite. And Luffy was like, okay, so they can be fixed, and that's all he cared about. It's a very similar moment where, the bad guy gives an ultimatum, and the good guy is just not even caring about the negative consequences towards themselves. They're just happy that the thing that they want for their friend can be accomplished, or the person that they care about can be accomplished. Right, so that reminded me a lot of that scene from Amazon Lily. It's just a very similar reaction. Um, as for who's more pure-hearted, it's just it's like, how do you even scale those type of things? I think Kuma is probably, he's the most dedicated to, like, here's the thing about Luffy. Once Luffy's involved in a situation, right? Once he's involved in a situation or he cares about a certain friend or person, he will do absolutely everything for them, right? Absolutely everything. He will go to the ends of the world. He declared war on the entire world for Robin, who he wasn't that tight with yet at that point. I mean, they didn't know her that well at that point in time. Like, he will just do everything for the smallest thing, right? Someone gives him food, he'll free their country for them, right? That's Luffy. So once he's involved, he will do everything. So to me, once Luffy, like, if you're scaling Kuma versus Luffy, right? Their kindness, Luffy needs an incentive, but once he has that small incentive, that personal incentive, he's just as good of a person as Kuma. The difference, I suppose, is that Kuma is dedicated to saving people in general, and that's his biggest dream, his wish from childhood. He's like, I'm gonna try and dedicate my life to saving as many people as possible, and Luffy's not like that. But that's why Luffy's a difficult character to kind of, and that's what makes him a unique character. It's hard to put a label on the type of moral person he is, because we see how kind and altruistic and selfless he is once he's put in certain situations, but left to his own devices, he's just going to do whatever he wants and focus on his own personal desires and not really give a shit about anything else that's going on outside of his own journey, his own fun, what he wants to do, right? So it's not a traditional, it's like one of those things where he's not traditionally motivated like most heroes are, but when he's put in circumstances where he needs to be a hero for someone, or he needs to help certain people, and he actually has a small reason to do so, he will go far beyond what we see of most any other character. Like, he's pretty much the kindest, most pure-hearted person you could imagine in fiction when it comes to that. So that's what makes Luffy such an interesting character. I like that it's more complicated than just, like, him being a traditional hero. It makes the story much more interesting, allows for a lot more, it allows for a lot more unpredictability in terms of the direction things go, the actions the main character takes, etc. And I think that also makes the moments where Luffy does something really, really kind or really, really big-hearted that much more impactful, because we know that he's usually sidelining his own dreams, etc. quite a bit for it, and it feels like almost out of character, because, not out of character, like, he's just like, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like very based on his own whims, but he'll put all of that aside and, like, just take one person he just met and put it way above all that in any given moment, and that's what makes him so, just a different type of hero. Or protagonist, whatever you want to say. Chopper Man, thanks for being a Yonko to your member for a month. Thoughts on Kizaru betraying Saturn? Light Fruit could represent Nika, and even did the dance in the chapter with Kuma and them. I mean, I talked about Kizaru for a while. Like, you can go back to my video. I did a video talking about the tragedy of Kizaru, the admiral who sold his soul, and most of it's lamenting what has become of Kizaru, but a good portion of it is talking about how this arc seems entirely set up for a character arc for Kizaru, because we're being set up with that internal moral conflict. It seems like he's set up to make a change and have a awakening, or not devil fruit awakening, but like character awakening or something like that, and finally stand up for what he wants to do himself. I've talked about that for quite a bit during the Kizaru section of this arc, just how it really seems like Kizaru is headed towards some sort of a character arc, because just too much is being written for him, from his opening lines talking about how he's just a cog in the machine, to the flashbacks that we were already getting with him and Sentomaru, and it just being made clear that there's more of a personal attachment here for him, and that he's actually morally conflicted about what he's doing. So the foundation for all that was set. It also plays into the themes of the arc about free will and obedience and all of that. So I think that it would be really, really great. I think it would be definitely a missed opportunity. I mean, if Oda wants to write it one way, he wants to write it one way, right? Like, maybe Kizaru is supposed to show that, hey, sometimes, it doesn't matter how much a personal attachment you have. Maybe if you're just too beaten into the system, you just can't break that chain. That would be indeed the full tragedy of Kizaru. But I really, really think it would be a great opportunity for, an admiral, and one that we viewed as the most obedient admiral, to actually stand up and do something outside of his orders for once, I think it would fit with the ideas of the arc very, very well. So I really, really hope for that. Okay, let me move a little faster. Batman for real, thanks for the 2. Watch Kaguya-sama, I promise it's really good. I believe it's really good. It's just not my, it's not the type of genre I'm interested in, I guess, basically. But I believe it's really good. Again, like, I believe, like, Haikyuu's... I'm gonna try Haikyuu one day, by the way. I think I upset a lot of people last stream with the way I was talking about Haikyuu. I will never not think that them making a big deal out of a guy going like this is... I will always think that's funny, I think. But I believe it's really good. I think I made that very, very clear. I've never tried to say anything bad about Haikyuu in terms of, like, me thinking it's a bad series. I've just explained why I think it's a little ridiculous, but I believe that the writing has got to be really, really good, because I've just heard so many good things about Haikyuu. You know? I believe that it's really good. I will try it one day. I'll give it another shot one day, but only after I've exhausted everything else that I could possibly be interested in. Does that make sense? It's not exactly high up the whatever the thing is, the rung, you know, it's not exactly high up the list of things that I want to check out. Fading Phase, thanks for the 5. Hey Morj, what are your theories on why Kuma is visiting Luffy's hometown? Okay, so there's nothing that we can see in Luffy's past that really gives us a hint as to what goes down here, right? Unless some of you brilliant people here have some ideas. So I like to think that it's Kuma. I really, really don't know. I'm like, there's two options. Either it's something Joy Boy / Nika related, right? And Kuma has some theory or some feeling and he wants to check something out. Either it's that, or it's like maybe they heard something about the Goma Goma no Mi ending up on that island or something. I don't know. Either it's that, or he just wants to see something of Dragon's Son and wants to observe Dragon's Son or something like that. I don't know. It's also really... Isn't this cool? We're getting Luffy in the flashback. Why are we getting Luffy in the flashback? This has never happened before, where we're reading another character's backstory, and it seems we're just going to get a random young Luffy chapter in the middle of their backstory. You know what I mean? That's so bizarre. It'd be like, if we're reading, I don't know, like, Law's backstory, and then partway through it, it's like, okay, here's a chapter on, like, young Luffy. I don't know. It feels so different from what we're used to. Le Man, thanks for the 5. I cried so hard reading 1100, and I don't remember the last time I cried reading One Piece. Also, please stop dating my mom, Morj. Yeah, you can have her back. I'm done with her. As for the crying for chapter 1100, was this that sad of a chapter? I didn't think this was that sad of a chapter. Like, I'm not trying to... I'm not trying to knock the backstory. I think the backstory is phenomenally sad, but, like, I cried during... 1098, was it 1098? Yeah, 1098, the Ginny death chapter, but these last two have been very interesting chapters, but I didn't feel... Maybe, did you cry during the Kuma scene, like where he's making the sacrifice for Bonnie and hearing everything? Or are you just crying over... you know, them being separated and everything like that, or just the concept overall? Like, what's happening is definitely sad, but there was no scene in particular, or a moment in particular this chapter that really moved me to tears, but obviously the backstory as a whole is very, very sad. One Piece Clips, thanks for the 5. Mr. Morj, I love you so much, best One Piece content creator. Thank you very much, I really, really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. One Piece Clips, are you like a One Piece clip channel? I'm curious. Ancrust, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 4 months. Congrats on 200k, Morj. I've been here since early 2021. Damn, so like 2.5 years now. That's great. Oh my god, early 2021 was 2.5 years ago. That is crazy. I still feel like that was just like 1.5, like it feels like 1.5 years ago or something like that. Always love the effort you put into content and the passion you have for One Piece. Thank you very much. Do you think the man marked by flames could be the Warlord Ace Beat? So I've seen some people talking about that. All I can say is that I would love for it to be someone that's not Dragon. Just because I think Dragon would be a little... I think just marked by... like, I don't know. Dragon does have a black ship. He does have the markings that you could construe as flames. And he would probably have the ability to create whirlpools. but it just seems like a cheap attempt to create mystery when the answer is just dragon, which is just a character that's, not, I don't know, it's just a pretty straightforward. And like, you could just say dragon has it. Like, everyone knows who the fuck dragon is. um like like kid would know. Like, if kids referring to dragon vaguely as the man marked by flames, that's just a very, he's making the character talk in a very deliberately vague way, even though the answer would be very obvious, and kid could just say, I hear that dragon the revolutionary has it, right? That being said, could it be the warlord that Ace beat? Could it be the warlord that Ace beat? I think it could be. I definitely think it could be, but then at the same time, I'm like, is this guy, some dude that Ace beat having the road poneglyph, it feels almost anticlimactic unless this guy turns out to be some famous name for some reason, like maybe a former member of the Rocks Pirates, because, this guy's got, like, the last road poneglyph in the world. Like, who else had the previous poneglyphs? Kaido, Big Mom, the Yonko. And then obviously there was one on Zoe, but even Zoe, that's nothing to laugh at. And like, it was held there, I think, on behalf of the Kazuki clan themselves, so it was a direct connection to Wano, the creators of the poneglyphs. So then it's just like, okay, it's just some random pirate that Ace beat. Just some random pirate that Ace beat. I mean, like, it just doesn't. It's not that exciting, but, it would be a cool twist, I guess. Learn about a new character, a former warlord, gives a bit of history and lore. I'm curious how important this guy's going to be. You know what's funny? We do know about, Oda's been hyping up or he said at one point that there would be a pirate that shows up one day that has an eye patch, right? We've had no eye patch pirates in One Piece so far. So I'm always looking out for, okay, who is an important pirate that could still appear in the story that could have an eye patch? Luffy himself is a great little possibility. Luffy having to get an eye patch one day. But, or if some incident happens, maybe like Blackbeard versus Shanks, and Blackbeard loses an eye, Blackbeard gets an eye patch. I think those are options. But yeah, maybe this mysterious man marked by flames could be the final option. And maybe it is a warlord, former warlord. Justin Holland, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. Seeing how Luffy's brotherhood is becoming connected to everything again. Kindness is not competition. Maybe that's Kuma and Luffy's connection. Yeah, Kuma and Luffy both being very pure, kind-hearted figures. I think that, it'd be interesting if during the, maybe Luffy has a scene where Kuma sees something of Luffy in Fuchsia Village. Obviously from afar, because Luffy doesn't recognize Kuma, so Luffy hasn't seen him before. If Kuma observes Luffy in some way, doing something that makes him realize he's special, and maybe it's something kindness-related. I don't know. Kind of like Luffy seeing and observing, Sanji's kindness back at Baratie. It's possible. As for Luffy's brotherhood being connected to everything again, yeah, I love how, Oda likes pulling Ace back into the story quite frequently. But it's funny, it's just like weird things, the way fate aligns in certain ways. It's like because Ace took out a warlord, very possibly killed a warlord, we don't know, but because Ace took out a warlord, that then opened up the whole for Kuma story to begin, with Kuma being made a warlord, and then that plays into where Luffy's story is now, with Kuma being a warlord affecting Luffy's story, and it just, everything ties together in some ways. TKH, thanks for the 20. Hey Morg, big time lurker, love your content and watch every VOD. First time live, thanks for tuning in for the first time. Congrats on 200k, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the VOD of the 200k celebration. Do you still see Bonnie as a potential crewmate given the age/child stuff we know now? So, interestingly, I think that it gives Bonnie a better shot at being a crewmate, because one of people's arguments against Bonnie for a long time, or anybody joining in general for a long time, was what role would somebody play on the crew, right? People want every new straw to have a role. I think that's fair. Bonnie being a kid means that she could play the cabin girl role perfectly, like cabin boy, cabin girl. Those are well-known roles on pirate ships, on ships in general. I think that Bonnie turning out to be a kid basically would make her the apprentice in some ways of the ship. Stanley Barton, thanks for the 2. So what you're saying is he's just like Goku. I guess, like, Luffy's just like Goku? Yeah, I guess. I think Luffy and Goku are a bit different in that sense, and I think that Goku is a bit more honestly, I think Goku's gone through a lot of iterations, right? So Goku of today is somewhat different than Goku of his youth, who's different from Goku throughout Z. I'm gonna need a refresher throughout why Goku did all of his actions throughout Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z to confidently compare Luffy and Goku. I do think Luffy's a bit more, from what I remember, like a bit more. You did this small thing for me, so now I'm gonna do everything. I think there's just more instances of that, but I don't want to insult Dragon Ball fans or whatever. I really, really just remember the broad strokes beats of like Goku's personality, and let's see, why did he defeat Piccolo, Demon King Piccolo, not Piccolo Jr.? Why did he do that in the first place? Was it just because the world needed to be saved? Was that why? That's like a heroic thing to do. For the most part, Goku's just out doing his adventures as a kid. Yeah, I think Goku takes more of a superhero role. Like he takes on more. No, he's not like Luffy. Goku takes on more so the superhero role in that like the Z fighters are the defenders of Earth and everything like that. And Luffy and the Straw Hats would never be like that. It would be more so we're gonna do our own thing, and then, you know, if we happen to like if some people happen to need our help and we like those people, we're gonna, you know, go above and beyond to help them. But I don't think that's like Goku and the Z fighters. Now that I think about it. OH&S. OH&S. For some reason I thought Ornstein and Smo. Maybe I'm just Dark Souls brained. Congrats on 200k subs. Thank you very much. Reading chapter 1100 gave me the same feeling as chapter 0 in Luffy's flashback. Getting shown glimpses of the entire One Piece world in the past before looping to the start of at Fuchsia Village. Yeah, I think that was a really cool thing for Oda to do, this chapter. Even if it's just random little arbitrary snippets of the world back then, it's just cool to go back and see, yeah, that's what everybody was up to back then. Like, that's what Crocodile and Nico... It's always funny to me to see Crocodile and Nico Robin in flashbacks working together. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, wait, come on, you're working with the Crocodile right now? This is ridiculous. What are you doing? But, you know, this doesn't end well. I mean, she knew that too, but... Anyway, I love any chance Oda takes to show us little snippets of what's going on in the One Piece world, and doing it at an earlier stage in the story is especially cool because it just adds a sense to lore, and not even lore, just the sense that it's very much a living and moving world and things are happening. Like, Ace had a very interesting career on the Whitebeard Pirates ship. He took out, he was before he joined. Wait. I'm trying to think. He went to Wano before or after joining the Whitebeard Pirates. I kind of forget. I think before joining the Whitebeard Pirates. I think. But then even after joining the Whitebeard Pirates, you know, he was out and about taking out Shichibuka and stuff like that. It's just cool to learn these things. Frederico Barros Vito, thank you very much. Hey Morji, you handsome devil. Thanks. Now that we have a clearer view of things, how do you think the definition between Nika and Joy Boy stands? Can you be one without the other? Do you consider them synonyms? Are there any differences between each other? So there was a video that I actually wanted to drop next week, and I chose against it. I was between two videos. One was an Ace video discussing that very subject, about whether Ace could be Joy Boy, etc. And then the other one is a mystery topic that I found more fun to write. Well, no, I was between the two. It's hard to say. I'm going to still do the Ace one at some point, but I went with a different one. As for that topic, between, like, can you be Nika, can you be Joy Boy without being Nika? I personally, like, at this point in time, we can only make speculations, and I don't want to go in-depth in everything I kind of thought about for that video. But the short answer would be, I believe that the true Joy Boy, the Joy Boy that would be the one to free the world, would simply naturally be, like, the Nika fruit would organically identify and choose that person at the end of the day. I think that that's very possible, and I also think that much like, I feel like the Nika fruit is essential to being able to defeat Emu. I think everything else that could be necessary to freeing the world, So, defeating the Marines, overcoming ancient weapons, taking on the Gorosei, the Holy Knights. I think all of that can be done, but I wonder if you ultimately need the Nika fruit to defeat Emu. The reason I say this is simply because I think back to Skypiea with Luffy versus Enel, and the Shanyans and all of them, they're able to do everything. They're able to pull off a rebellion. The Straw Hats were able to defeat priests and such. Wiper took out a priest. Like, the rebellion was very, very successful, well orchestrated. But ultimately, Enel is just God. He cannot be defeated by anybody there. He's just too far above everybody there, right? He is immortal, or invincible, essentially, by their standards. Nothing can be done against him. They try their best. Like, Wiper has a perfect plan. Hits him with the Sea Stone and then the Rejectile, and it's just, that's not enough. The only way that Enel was ultimately defeated was there's one person who was essentially destined to defeat him, who is the only person who is actually, like, who is almost, like, existed to be Enel's natural enemy, and that was Luffy, thanks to his rubber fruit, right? I wonder if there's something similar, because the Nika fruit just being so important to the world, being so important as this legacy of Joy Boy, etc., being this thing that the Gorosei fear, I wonder if that fruit is ultimately going to be the key in some way to being able to counter Emu's powers, whatever they may be, or being able to defeat Emu. So that's the one thing that I think that, if we just put it in like a logistic sense, right? I think you would need the Nika fruit maybe to ultimately take up the role of Joy Boy, simply because I think that the Nika fruit, one, it would organically choose who's best suited, but two, it's the key to freeing the world, because the world can't be free till Emu's defeated, and I think it might be the only way to defeat Emu. Jamal, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. Did I read that wrong? Yeah. For 14 months, Morj's backdrop is steadily improving. Love to see it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, because for a long time I was kind of like, the backdrop, I know it's important, but I can get around to doing it later and later. And like, you just need some time to sit down and be like, okay, what do I want it to look like? Let me order the stuff, get it all set up, etc. I put it off for a long time, and then eventually I had to take some time to actually make sure that it got done. And I'm like, okay, it was well worth it, because now it actually looks nice in the background. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. Do you think Kuma will meet Luffy but erase his memory of the meeting? Oh, shit! That is a great idea. I did not think of that whatsoever. I love that idea, because I'm just like, what could Kuma have seen of Luffy that could potentially have given him a lot of faith and belief in Luffy without ever actually interacting with Luffy, because Luffy doesn't know Kuma, right? That is a really cool idea. Also, could the Burn Scar Man be the former warlord Ace defeated? Yeah, that's something that was discussed earlier. I definitely think it's a possibility. I think that maybe it's a little random that one dude has one of the 4 most important items in the world, essentially, minus ancient weapons, but 4 most important items in the world, kind of, in a way, who was just some warlord that Ace beat way back when, who's, no knock on Ace. Ace is obviously a strong character, but it's just like, that warlord wouldn't be exactly then one of the strongest warlords, really. You know what I mean? Like, it would be, he'd be a strong warlord, but, Shattered Glass, thanks a lot. Kuma probably visits Fuchsia because the world government informed him that Shanks visits that island. The one stealing the Gomu Devil Fruit visits that island often. But Shanks didn't go there, he hadn't been there in some time, right? Like, quite a while. I don't know. We'll learn more as we go. Sean Easton, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. On my way home from a week-long hunting trip. Oh shit, I didn't know you hunt. Got an elk. Lot of work to butcher though. Good chapter. Could you skip a production week for Wano vid? Potentially. If I'm feeling really good when I'm in Malaysia, maybe I'll write it on either while I'm there or the plane ride there or something like that. It depends. But there's potential for that for sure. I'm done making promises for that. But I do. So I would never skip a normal production week to do the Wano video though. I would never do that just because the reality is that with the way YouTube is, it's very, very, you never know. It's very risky to take a full week off, even if it's just one video. But it's not like it's risky to take a full week off. And it's doing that is basically like you really don't know what will happen. I've done that before for sure, but usually I've done that at times that I've dropped really long analysis videos where I'm like, okay, this will keep up. This will give people something to watch for basically 2 weeks if it's like an hour-long video or something like that. So, by the way, if I drop the Wano analysis video, / when I drop the Wano analysis video, I would very likely take the next week off because you've dropped such a large video that people will be watching between this week and next week, essentially, so the channel still is active in a way. But it is generally very risky to take a week off from YouTube, especially when I'm a channel that uploads generally about once a week. Because if you're a channel that uploads like 3 times a week, I upload chapter reviews as well, right? But the main videos, right? And there's not going to be that's the thing, there's not going to be a chapter most likely during Christmas week either. So it'll be kind of like skipping 2 videos in a sense, if that makes sense. But yeah, generally skipping a week for YouTube uploads, it's just a risky thing. And then on top of that, it's like I think I've explained this before, but there's a mini Morj, there's a mini economy that goes on in the background of the Morj channel, if that makes sense, because there's the editor / like, I don't know how to explain, editor / manager / producer of the channel who owns a percentage of the channel, person in charge of all the editing, etc., but also in charge of bank related stuff, like poster stuff, merch stuff, etc. And then there's also thumbnail guy who relies on us for giving him regular work. And then there's also image annotations guy who basically we're his only source of income at the moment. There's like a whole, and then we have a virtual assistant who does in between stuff. There's like a whole mini economy that would be hard to explain. So taking a week off production, it's not really, I don't know. It would be nice for me to be able to sit back and do the Wano video for that. But the reality is that the better way to do it would be to double up on videos for a week so I can then have a free week to do Wano stuff. But anyway, too much boring explanation on ins and outs of how channels work, but doesn't matter. Just know that I will try and get it done while I'm in Malaysia. Or flying to Malaysia is more likely, because I'd want to enjoy Malaysia while I'm there. Shattered Glass, thanks a lot. Kuma probably visits Fuchsia because world government informed him that Shanks. No, we covered this. Timothy McQueen, thanks for the 10. Since this arc and its conflicts seemingly came out of nowhere, and you view it in such high esteem, I think it's top 3 in my opinion. How do you think the arcs that have been hyped up so much will stack up? I don't know, because, I mean, I did, like, this is not beating a dead horse at this point, but I didn't enjoy the Wano arc, even though that was an arc that was probably the most hyped up arc in One Piece history, right? So, prior hype, etc. doesn't factor in necessarily into how good or bad an arc is going to be. Like, I think the Marineford arc and what that was building towards from the moment we found out what was going to happen with Ace to Sabaody, etc., and the build up and build up and build up, I think that definitely delivered above and beyond. So, you never know what you're going to get. I think that with this arc, how do I think arcs that are coming up like Elbaf, etc.? I don't have super high expectations for Elbaf actually because this arc is going off so much. So I kind of assumed that this arc would be a bit of a warm-up and then maybe Elbaf is something much bigger. But it seems like this arc is like a huge world-changing incident, and now I'm thinking maybe Elbaf might be a smaller, more personal arc, which maybe just really centers around Luffy and Shanks, I don't know. And then if Blackbeard's involved, maybe even the Kid Pirates are involved or something, that's just a welcome addition. And I'll be pleasantly surprised with Elbaf. Really, there's only one arc that I think is truly set up to be something really huge that the entire story of One Piece has been building towards, and that's the final war, right? That's when all the pieces come together, all the characters are fighting, right? And here's the thing. Everyone says One Piece did the Marineford War really, really well, and it did. It did. But the Marineford War, ultimately, it was more so just small skirmishes between characters, right? It wasn't a really in-depth sort of thing where we're getting extensive fights between, you know, each of the Straw Hats getting a fight or something like that, or like most of the major characters involved getting a fight, right? That's kind of what we need in the final war, right? We need the Straw Hats to get fights. Most likely Dragon, Sabo. I'm not saying like full chapter fights for everybody, but kind of in the same manner that in Wano, you had Inuarashi getting a fight, Nekomamushi getting a fight. Lots of characters got their moments, right? Their time to shine. And that's really what we're going to need in the final war. So it's going to be a lot more elaborate, a lot more pieces. And I still think to date, I have not read a manga arc. I know that Kingdom supposedly has done this phenomenally and pulled it off phenomenally. I haven't read Kingdom. I personally have not read a manga war in shonen that has featured stuff like that, where like it's not like Marineford, which is like a 30 chapter kind of battle, like with lots of quick like it's more snippets of action than anything else, and that's what makes like Marineford succeeds without having to go too in depth in anything. The final war is gonna have to go in depth, so I don't think I've seen a manga arc in shonen pull that off well. Like there's just so many things that come with that. How much do you focus on the side characters? At what point is the pacing off? Is it dragging too long? Is it becoming too rushed? Is it too bloated? It's just difficult. I really don't like. I've seen like Naruto's Final War attempted it. We got what we got. I think Bleach has had a couple war arcs, I guess you could say, between Karaku, like the Arrancar War and the Thousand Year Blood War in the manga was very bad. The anime is working to fix it, right? But Arrancar War I thought was okay, solid. Still bloated, still weirdly put together in some ways. Strange shifts in momentum. Wano, I feel like reading a lot of, again, this is me, right? I feel like reading Wano, the war, from when it starts to when it finishes, it has some great highlights for sure. It also feels very, very bloated and slow and just clunky throughout a lot of it, and there's just so much shit that's just like the Isonis, and then the Kazembo, and then this character died, but then not really, and like we're just killing some time here, and then Raizo's fighting Fukurokuju for like 10 chapters. I don't know, there's just I've yet to be convinced that a huge manga war can be done well, just because week to week it's so hard to keep all these pieces moving and just keep momentum going in a way that feels right, and not do too much, but also not rush certain parts, and also make all of the things that have been set up feel meaningful, stuff like that. So I don't know. I still believe, like, Egghead's giving me a lot of hope in terms of the character stuff that Oda probably has in mind for his major characters in the final war. But in terms of the war as a whole, it's definitely going to be really exciting when it happens, but it's also going to be the most ambitious. Like, the final war in One Piece, it's bigger than anything in Naruto, bigger than anything in Bleach, bigger than anything in One Piece itself, be that the Wano War, the Dressrosa War, whatever you want to say, Marineford. So there's just no standard to compare it to be like, yeah, this will definitely be pulled off perfectly or well, or at least like end the series in a way that everybody calls that the best arc or something like that, because it has all the potential to be the best arc. That's the thing, right? I'm not trying to be, it has the potential to be the best arc in One Piece. I'm sure it has the potential to go down as the best arc in Shonen by the time all is said and done. So there's a lot riding on the final war. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Moiz Iftikhar, thank you very much. Do you think there's any parallels between Kiros and Rebecca from Dressrosa and Kuma and Bonnie? I definitely think so, because Oda said something. So it's hard to say if it's parallels necessarily. One, they look similar visually. Like, literally, you can look up a photo of Kuma and Kiros have literally the same hair, and Rebecca and Bonnie have literally the same hair. They're visually quite similar. Also, funny thing, Bonnie is not written, like, one of the things that confused people, of course, about like Bonnie's age was that she's just not. This is random. I just want to get this out. She's not written like a kid whatsoever in the way that she speaks, her dialogue, etc. Like, compare like how little kid Rebecca talked to little kid Bonnie talking. Even when Bonnie was younger, like, she's close to 10 now or whatever, but like when she was 5, it's like Rebecca sounds like a little kid. Bonnie sounds like a grown ass person, or at least like a teenager. Just the way that she speaks, the way that she pushes her opinions, etc., the way that she articulates herself. It's very jarring to be like to see all these other little kids in One Piece that talk like little kids, and then Bonnie's just like, yeah, fuck you. I'm like, okay. I think that's funny. Anyway, as for Kiros and Rebecca versus Kuma and Bonnie, so Oda said something in an interview a while back, which was that he used to be a little hesitant to write like real father daughter or like real parental relationships in One Piece before he had a kid of his own. But then as soon as he had a kid of his own, he felt much more like, I get it. I understand how to write these things. And since then, he explained that with the context of Kiros and Rebecca, right? So he's like, I wouldn't have been able to write Kiros and Rebecca without that sort of background for myself. So the father-daughter relationship, I think, is something that's very personal to Oda because he's talked about it in interviews, that's something that once he experienced it himself, he was able to put it into writing. So I don't know if necessarily Kiros and Rebecca's story has to parallel Kuma and Bonnie's, because I think Kiros and Rebecca has a happy ending to their story, whereas Kuma and Bonnie I don't think will. I think it'll be a bittersweet ending. But I think that what Oda's probably feeling and thinking while he's writing these dynamics is probably similar to his own sort of like it's coming from a more personal place, and they do share the same sort of similarity in the sense that Kiros's whole thing with Rebecca was that he wanted to be able to shield her and protect her from having to feel like any sort of harm or suffering or like burden throughout the world, right? He wanted to basically be like take it all upon himself, and that's why he was like so sad that she had to fight for so many years in the Colosseum, right? But he wanted to be the one who just shoulders all of that for her, right? Kuma's going through the same thing with Bonnie right now, which is she shouldn't have to suffer whatsoever. Let me just take all the suffering upon myself so that she can have a better life. So I think that there's that key similarity there. I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't think about that. JWP, thanks for the 5. What's up, Morjman? You smell great tonight, Roar. All right. Moving on. Breezy2X, thanks for the 5. Do you think after One Piece is completed, the show won't be as good for first-time people who binge off it compared to us who read weekly? No, I will always think that One Piece is way better binged. I think it's way, way, way better binged. Because weekly, we complain about lots of stuff weekly that's like random shit that then gets forgotten very quickly. I don't know. Like, there's just more stuff to not like weekly because you're only getting a little bit of story at a time. And so you can poke at that story quite a bit. But, like, I think Whole Cake Island is so much better binged. I think Dressrosa is so much better binged. I think most One Piece arcs are just better binged, in my opinion. I think Egghead Island will be way better binged because if you flash back, like a few months ago, right, in the in-between phase, after Luffy defeated Lucci, to when we started cutting away to outside world events, people were not digging Egghead Island that much. People weren't saying it was like a bad arc, but it was. One, as a YouTuber, right, you experience this straight up. You can see like levels of engagement with One Piece content. You can see viewership, interest, etc. So you can literally statistically see what's going on. But two, just in terms of discourse, it's not like people were like ragging on Egghead, but there was a feeling of like, okay, nothing happened this chapter, this mystery, etc. Like we kind of had this little mystery going on, and people were interested, but at the same time, people were like, it better not be this, or this better not be the answer. And then it turned out to be York, and some people were pissed about that. And it all just seems so far away and silly and inconsequential now, because it was just a period of time in the story when not that much was going on. And I remember when we were cutting away to Shanks and then Garp stuff, and then the Reverie stuff, everybody was talking about how, like, this is way more hype than what's happening at Egghead, right? And now we cut back and it's like, no, you know what? The story played out perfectly. What's happening at Egghead is so exciting right now because of the way Oda built everything. What's happening with Kuma is like some of the best writing One Piece has ever had, period. And we're so excited to cut back away from the flashback back to the fight scene to see Saturn get his ass kicked now. So everything played out perfectly in the end. And like, if you're able to just binge it all in one go, you feel the full flow of the arc, right? You get the setup period, then the conflict is sort of brewing, you're getting some internal drama, etc., with the mystery and everything like that. Then the outside world context is beginning to be set up for us. Then we're finally getting to the climax. We're cutting back to the main storyline. We're getting the climax of that has a lot more weight because we got the outside world context. we're getting the dramatic flashback, and then finally we're getting an epic finale. I think just the flow of the arc will feel a lot better when it's not week to week. I will say, flip side, when really, really exciting things do happen, in those individual chapter moments, you do want to be a weekly reader because you just get to interact and talk with so many people about it, and it becomes sort of like an event, and there's so much discussion, so much breaking down of what's happening, right? Like the Gear 5th chapter, right? That's so much more dramatic if you're a weekly reader than if you're binging, you know? So it varies, but I think overall binging is generally going to be better. Vanilla, thanks a lot. Hold on, 1 second. I'm gonna have to open up the tab. Hold on. Also, let's get the stream likes up to... Oh, no, we got him to 200. Let's get him to 300 then. Hoops, thanks for the 5. Oda sure loves the sacrificing yourself trope. Maybe Joy Boy or the Ancient Kingdom sacrificed themselves for dreams or something. Yeah, Oda is huge on that. I think One Piece goes hard on that more than any... I think Oda just really loves grand gestures of... like, huge gestures of just just very, very grand gestures, like grand gestures from good-hearted, principled characters. There's something very powerful about that I think he's drawn to, and you see it literally all throughout the story. From like, so many of One Piece's greatest moments are that, right? Like even moments where nobody actually dies or gives it, like nothing happened, right? Just the gesture in itself is so powerful of what Zoro chose to do, right? So Oda's definitely really, really drawn to that, and I think that One Piece is the story that I think, for me, it hits that in a very impactful chapters and stuff, with that very impactful chapters, impactful panels, impactful moments. It does that very consistently. So yeah, I mean, it's like one of his favorite tropes, but he does it very well. And it's kind of just like what One Piece is built on the back of, and I think it reflects having a very strong character, very strong spirit, which also plays into the themes of the story, obviously. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 2. Who is the better dad, Kiros or Kuma? I mean, it's just like, again, it's just debating, you're just splitting hairs at this point. I feel like Kiros would do the same thing for Rebecca that Kuma did for that Kuma does for Bonnie, right? I think they would do the same thing. In terms of who has done more, I think Kuma's sacrifices is greater, right? Kuma has made a greater sacrifice, in my opinion. Ice Cream Gomez says, bro, you said grand gesture 4 times, LMAO. Yeah, because sometimes you're searching for a way to end a phrase, but you can't think of it, and it's just the way it is, you know? Sometimes there's not or at least off the top of your head, there's not the most perfect way to encapsulate what you're trying to say, other than just the general gist of it. I don't know between Kiros and Kuma. I think Kuma's done more. That's all I can say. I mean, he gave up literally everything, like not just his life, but his body, physically, his mind, his independence, his free will, right? I think that's giving more, but I feel like Kiros would probably do the same thing. Justin Holland, thanks for the 10. Since you kind of made it clear how you can't stomach the recent God of War games, it's not that I can't stomach them. I feel like that's not the right way to forbid. Did I give that impression? It's not that I can't stomach them. It's just, like, you gotta understand from my perspective. Okay, let me finish your comment before I respond. Ragnarok has the Norns say that fate is merely the sum of choices, no predestined scripts, and I that feel choice has power. Okay, so fate is merely the sum of choices. There's no predestined scripts, and I feel that choice has power. I feel like it would be great if One Piece, especially in the Final War, and I believe that it will, but I feel like it would be great, especially if in the Final War, if Oda is able to address the questions that have come up with, like, how much of Luffy's journey is is him choosing exactly what he wants to do, and it just so happening to lead to him playing the role of Joy Boy organically, versus this just was his fate. He was scripted to do this from birth, and he's playing out a predestined role. I think that it would be really great for Oda to do it. I like that idea. I like that idea that Ragnarok, the game Ragnarok, has. But at the same time, I would love to see it incorporated in One Piece as well. You know what I mean? Like, to not just assume that that's definitely what Oda's going for. I would like it to be addressed a little more strongly. But I like that idea. I will also say that it's not that I think that the God of War games are bad games. I think it's just not what I was looking for. Because I was trying to get back into playing single-player games for the first time ever. I'm not a big single-player game player. I'm not a big video game person in general, right? But at the start of this year, I was like, let me try playing some games. So I played some FromSoft games. And I was like, holy shit, these games are so good. And then people were like, you got to play God of War. So then I played God of War, and I was just felt... for me, it was really, really lacking in terms of what I was looking for with those games. I don't know. Because people were like, it's more so for the story, and I get, like, it felt more like, I understood what people were saying at a certain point. It's like, it's an interactive movie more than anything. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for exactly, and I just didn't enjoy the gameplay loop that it was putting me through, where it felt like everything was just moving to the next cutscene. But I understand, like, I can understand that probably the story gets really good, the character writing gets really good. That's just not what I was interested in exactly when I started picking up that game. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point. It's just not what my interest was. Zoldan, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months. Hey Morj, I have the same issue with sports anime as you, where I can't take it seriously, but I was able to get into Blue Lock because it sets up its stakes so well. So you might like that. So I've heard more positive things about Haikyuu than Blue Lock, to be honest. So I will probably try Haikyuu before I try Blue Lock. I think it's just a me thing. I'll have to get past my bias. It's just, again, like, the simplest thing that I can say about sports anime is that we all know that when we're watching an anime, it's going to be very overdramatic. Characters are going to speak in very, very convoluted, over-the-top ways, right? Very grandiose ways, take everything extremely seriously, right? And I can buy into that and even enjoy it for sure. I can definitely enjoy it, obviously. Like, it's one of my favorite parts of something like One Piece, right? But it's usually, I can buy into that better when it's in the context of life and death scenarios and superpowers, and there's just clear, like, you got a village at stake, or an island at stake, or people's lives at stake, or just clearly, like, these are superpowered beings. They get a right to talk in very grandiose, over-the-top manners, right? Like, you're blowing up mountains and stuff like that, or not even blowing up mountains, but, if I had crazy superpowers and I'm up against somebody else with crazy superpowers, yeah, we're going to talk like we're fucking godlike beings or whatever, right? It's just a detachment, a departure from reality, right? With sports anime, it's taking all of that grandiosity and over-the-top nature of dialogue and how seriously characters take things and how much they overthink every little moment, and, like, everything's just this mental chess game, etc., but it's just applying it to... but we're just fucking bouncing a volleyball around. So, I don't know. That's what it is, where it's like, you're taking all of the ridiculousness of anime, but then you're applying it to something that's very, like, at least put it in a super powered anime context, I guess, so I can really just go with the flow of everything the tone and style you're presenting to me. When it's just like kids playing volleyball, and it, like, literally middle school kids or whatever playing volleyball in a gym, and they're like they're acting like it's like they're going through mental loops like it's fucking Death Note or something. I'm just like, it's harder for me to get behind that. But I will. I promise I will. I'll try Haikyuu at some point. Also, Zoldan, thank you for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months. I will also shout out right now that the Pirate King podcast, which is basically an hour-long podcast that I put out every month, it is open for submissions again. The way that it works is you can ask me pretty much any question, just submit it to the Pirate King tier podcast, and every question that's submitted, everybody gets at least one. Well, yeah, every question that's submitted, basically, I answer in depth over the course of that podcast. I tend to, because in a stream I'm a bit rushed for time, in the podcast I answer it generally in far greater depth, and I can spend a lot more time on each question. So yeah, if you are interested, if you want to support the channel, you also, if you sign up for Pirate King tier, you also get access to the weekly Yonko podcasts. But the monthly Pirate King tier podcast, the submissions for that are going right now. Join that if you want to check that out. If you want to ask me questions, especially about things that are not One Piece related, because that's a lot of what that podcast is. Yeah, just go ahead. You can join, become a member, upgrade if you like. Just wanted to shout that out because the submissions for that are going on right now, and the podcast is going to drop at the start of next week. So, just a thing if people are interested. Summarization, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 10 months. Kuma's intro being after the arc where the zombies have individuality and then lose it like ores hit hard on reread. Maybe Seraphim parallel too. Holy shit, I did not think about that at all. That's a really, really cool point. I did not think about that at all. That is really interesting. There's so many little ways that Oda just ties in his ideas so cleverly that, oh, this fits with this, and this concept behind this character fits perfectly with what they were doing or saying or where they're at in this arc. I don't know. I would never have made that connection, I don't think, unless I went back and reread Thriller Bark and then I thought about Kuma showing up. Because, yeah, the way that Moria, Hogback, etc. command the zombies around as mindless creatures. That is interesting. That's really interesting, because Kuma's basically a zombie to be, right? He's 1 week away from essentially being them. He's in the process of becoming a zombie. That's interesting. Really, really like that point. Oscar Cruz, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months, man. I hope the other elders get as much page time as Saturn. I fear the rest of them will just get grouped together. Wish we got more of them sooner. I mean, I think that we are lucky to be getting everything that we're getting out of Saturn. I don't expect every Gorosei to get that same level of focus. I think it's insane as is that just one of those 5 elders who we kind of just always viewed as a clumped up group is getting so much significance in the story and might go down as one of One Piece's most memorable villains by the time all is said and done, depending on how this arc plays out or his role in Kuma's story plays out. So I think that on its own is amazing. I wouldn't be... Like, it depends what you mean by them getting time. I don't think each of them are going to be arc bosses, right? But would you say that, you know, did King get sufficient time in the story from your perspective, right? Or Mr. One or something like that? Because I feel like that's more what we can imagine. Probably more than either of those as well, just because they have greater political roles in the story. But, you know, I would imagine that one of them will end up being a Zoro opponent or something. One of them could end up being a dragon opponent or something like that. So they're going to get their moments, their times to be formidable obstacles, and we'll understand more about their character and personality. But I think anything beyond that is just a bonus, and I wouldn't bank on them. I wouldn't bank on or even expect them to each have Saturn-level significance, because it's just hard. Like, Saturn's a whole boss of an arc, right? He's the arc boss, the arc villain of Egghead Island, you know? It's hard to carve out that much screen time, story time for each of the Gorosei, for each villain. Peanut, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, I missed your last couple streams, but congrats on 200k subs. No worries at all, man. Thank you for the kind wishes, and yeah, the 200k celebration VOD is still up if you want to check that out. JWP, thanks for the 10. I appreciate the more normal message here. Saw people saying that they wanted the flashback to end. I get wanting to get to current stuff, but the longer and more fleshed out this flashback is, it's going to be such peak on reread and when future stuff connects back to it. Yeah, I mean, I thought, I was surprised to see people saying that they wanted the flashback to end. I think it might be simply because a lot of people might feel that we've hit the peak point of, you know what's funny? It's a video that, you know, it didn't take off them. I think this is a really interesting video, but I did a video about the One Piece flashback formula, right? That Oda usually does for flashbacks, okay? For sad backstories. And it usually goes through a certain cycle, and then it concludes, right? So, the cycle that Oda normally uses for flashbacks like for like Robin, Law, Chopper, Robin, etc., most characters, Otohime, in general, Nolan Kongara, there's a certain cycle and flow that he uses. Kuma is the first time in One Piece This is a video I just did like a few weeks ago, the One Piece flashback formula. Kuma's flashback is the first time in One Piece that Oda is looping the cycle twice. So he's doing the same cycle that he normally does. I'm not going to break down the cycle. That's what the video is for. It's not the most complicated thing in the world, but it is interesting. Kuma's the first time that Oda is looping the cycle twice. Okay? So normally, I feel like a lot of readers might feel like the flashback kind of peaked with the Ginny moment. Ginny's death, taking in Kuma. So you kind of feel like you've gone through a whole flow where, we saw Kuma start as a slave, lose his mom and dad, then get his freedom, escape, build a life with Ginny, etc., and then have all of that taken away and ripped away. This, the tragedy of what happened to Ginny, the final moments of Kuma taking in Bonnie, right? It feels emotionally like we already went through a lot. And, from there, now we're going through this new phase where it's like, okay, now Kuma's taking in Bonnie, now he's raising her, now he's trying to figure out ways to cure her and stuff like that. And we've gone into a new phase of the flashback. So if you understand kind of how Oda normally does flashbacks, this is actually Oda kind of looping a cycle of tragedy 2 times over, right? I think for a lot of readers, I don't think it's right that people are people can complain about whatever they want, but I can kind of understand why people might feel a little bit, done with the flashback, because Oda's already taken us through quite an emotional journey with what we've already gotten. And I think some readers might feel like just emotionally, right? Like no storytelling logic whatsoever, but emotionally you're kind of like, okay, that was sad. Okay, now we're going through some more stuff. Okay, can we get back to the story though? Like that was really sad. Like we got it. We got this stuff. Can we hurry it up now and get back to the story? I can understand readers kind of feeling that because it is a... I don't agree with it because obviously we're leading to something even bigger here and it's necessary with the Bonnie flashback. Like we're building things up more, but I can understand why people feel that way because it's something different that we've normally experienced. Like the author has already taken us through a full emotional journey. So it's understandable why readers might feel a little bit antsy at this moment. Like, okay, let's now we can move it along a little bit, right? I don't agree, but I think it's cool that it's happening because I feel like it validates my observations of how the cycle of Oda's flashbacks usually go, where we hit a certain point that readers subconsciously, emotionally, are usually used to flashbacks kind of concluding with, but now we're still going, and it seems like we're going to be going a bit longer. But that's necessary, I think, to build something even better than what we've gotten before, right? So 2 cycles to this flashback. We're in the 2nd cycle. We're halfway through the 2nd cycle, all right? Kuma's birth through the death of Ginny was cycle 1. That's usually how most One Piece flashbacks are structured. We are now halfway through cycle number 2, all right? So, it's all necessary to make the flashback even better and more dramatic than anything that's come before. Virgil Hawkins says, Miss Super from Vanilla. Let me check. Thank you, Virgil Hawkins. Thank you very much. Give me a second. Vanilla, I don't see a message for them though. I just see a submission, but there's no super there. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's no text there. Unless it's something further back. Because what I see is just a blank message box. There's no message involved there. So I don't know what their message was. If they have a message, they could maybe just say it, and then maybe I can try and catch it. Like, say it not as a super. I don't know. Where was that? Okay. Adam CR, thanks for the 2. Akainu plus Gorosei raid Elbaf to retaliate for Saturn. I don't think that... I think that whatever happens, I cannot imagine... leading a raid on an island where 2 Yonk, because Luffy and the Straw Hats will be there, and the red-haired pirates will be there, and the island that they're on is Elbaf, the island of the giants, who are renowned throughout the world as basically the strongest fucking race and strongest island in existence, right? So I cannot imagine... I mean, maybe it happens. Like, Oda always mixes shit up, right? But you gotta be fucking insane for Kaido. Like, Kizaru just got washed. Kaido's gonna be like, fuck it, we're still going in with who? Like, Green Bull? And we're taking, like, Green Bull just fucking ran away from Shanks the moment Shanks showed up. Like, who are you running in with? Fujitora? Fujitora's like best friends with Luffy. He's not gonna do anything. Like, who are they sending in to raid Elbaf, a land with a Yonko crew, a second Yonko crew, and the strongest race and strongest island inhabitants on the entire planet? I don't know. I feel like Elbaf is kind of, I feel like it's almost perfectly set up narratively to be the best haven for the Straw Hats to arrive at immediately after fucking shit up at Egghead Island, because it's like, if there's one place in the One Piece world right now that the Marines could not, like, would be very, very hesitant to send any sort of disciplinary forces towards, it would be Elbaf, right? That's where Shanks and the Red-Haired Pirates already are, who are probably the strongest pirate crew in the world. That's where the Giants are. I think the Marines wouldn't fuck with Elbaf regardless if there was no if there was a Yonko crew there or not, unless they could send a tremendous amount of forces. And then the Straw Hat Pirates themselves are a huge force, right? So I think it would be a tall order for them to try and do anything to Elbaf. I think they would have to wait till after Elbaf for them to try and do anything. But you never know. Also, Uranus exists. So if they could use Uranus, then that might just solve their problem. But they don't have any more Mother Flames for it, right? Breezy2X, thanks for the 5. Final saga fight you're looking forward to the most? Zoro versus Mihawk, Shanks versus Luffy, any dragon fight, etc. If I'm being, so if you ask me in this moment, to be honest, the one that it's not looking forward to the most. It's more like, what do I wish I could see the most right now? It would be a Shanks fight versus somebody, a dragon fight versus somebody, and a Mihawk fight versus somebody that's not Zoro. I don't know if that's Final War stuff necessarily. Final Saga fight that I'm looking forward to. Those three, I would love to see those three fight. Just because we haven't really seen them fight, you know? It's not but that's more just out of curiosity. Does that make sense? So it's not like I'm the most, like, emotionally tied to seeing those fights or anything like that. It's more just, man, if I had to put it in order, I'd be like, I really want to see, I don't even know. If I could have any wish tomorrow, if I could wish tomorrow for a chapter seeing Shanks versus someone, Dragon versus someone, Mihawk versus someone, I don't know which one I'd pick. It would also depend on who they fight. But I believe that I like to think that they each get to fight somebody before their story's over. Don't know who each of them fights, but those are the ones I'm actually looking forward to the most. If we go with, like, other fights that are kind of established, that we understand the narrative has been building towards, so ones that I'm actually emotionally, narratively interested in, because I just want to see Mihawk fight someone to see Mihawk fight someone. I want to see Shanks fight someone to see Shanks fight someone. It's more so just the curiosity and novelty aspect of it, because Oda's blue-balled us with these characters fighting for 1,100 chapters now. 1,100 chapters, they haven't fucking had a real action sequence against anybody of note. So, Luffy versus, I don't know, I think Luffy versus Blackbeard could be a very, Luffy versus Blackbeard, Luffy versus Akainu, those are the ones I want to see the most. I would love to see Luffy versus Emu just to understand, because it's probably the final fight of the story, so I feel like Oda's got something really spectacular planned for it. Zoro versus Mihawk, if I'm being honest, Zoro versus Mihawk is not the, like, it's one that I'm really interested in, but it's also just one that I feel like it's almost predictable in term. I feel like I know exactly, not know exactly, but would we all, I feel like a lot of us would bet a good amount of money that it might end with something very similar to exactly how their Baratier fight ended with. You know, probably Zoro doing some Santuri, no, not Santuri, like probably doing a very similar move, just maybe with Ashura Kyutori or something like that, and then Mihawk coming at him, and then them doing a big clash again, and this time Zoro comes out on top. I don't know, it feels like it's an inevitability, right? So I feel like we almost can feel a little bit how the flow, like we can almost feel a little bit about how that fight will climax with. I have no idea how Luffy versus Blackbeard will go. And that might be assuming too much. I might be totally wrong on that, but I don't know. It feels kind of right that, I don't know, it's just a more pure honorable swordsman duel versus, like, Luffy versus Blackbeard has probably more stakes attached to it. Luffy versus Akainu has more stakes attached to it, like genuine hate. Luffy versus Emu, it ends with freeing the world. Zoro versus Mihawk, I really, really want to see. But it's just, it falls in a different category. It's just like, we understand, like, both characters respect each other a lot. I feel like, I don't know. It's a little hard to explain. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't think the fight will disappoint. I just think that, I think it'll be a very high effort fight from Oda. But it's also one that we know, like, Mihawk is there. He's expecting Zoro to surpass him and beat him, right? Zoro, we know he's going to surpass him and beat him. Obviously, in most fights, you know that the hero's going to win, but it's just like, the outcome is already understood almost by both parties. Both parties respect each other. It's going to be a crazy display of choreography, for sure. But it's not like they hate each other. And it's not like they're true enemies. Like, that's his sensei, you know? Like, Zoro and Mihawk probably have a very close bond at this point in time, you know? So just, they will probably, I assume they'll try and kill each other. It'll probably be an attempt at a duel to the death. But there's not the passion or hate quite, I think, as you would get in, like, a Luffy versus Blackbeard or Luffy versus Akainu. So Vanilla's message was, this is Oda's way to answer, why didn't the world government go after Luffy all this time? The answer, they tried doing it in private. Oh, that's an interesting little point. But then I'm also just like, they could have also tried to do it a lot more times throughout the story. Like, CP9 exists, CP0 exists. Like, they could have sent a lot of characters. Like, Kuma's not the only option, right? If they wanted to get rid of Luffy, there's a million ways they could have done it, you know? So I don't think it's an answer, but it might be an attempt at giving an option. I don't know. I think also that we don't need an answer of why the world government didn't try to kill Luffy, just because I think it's simple to assume. We could probably reasonably assume that the Nika fruit has changed hands many times throughout the story. So if it's changed hands many times throughout the story, I'm sure that the Gorosei, and like no one has awakened it over 800 years. I don't know if the Gorosei would be freaking out each time somebody eats the Nika fruit, because it's been a dud for so long. They would just probably rather have their hands on it than somebody out in the wild with it. I don't know. Might be headcanon, but to me it also just makes sense. Sleeping Danger, thanks a lot. Do you think we'll see the Warlord that Ace beat? I would love to see the Warlord that Ace beat. Some people this stream have already theorized that it might be the man marked by flames, but at the same time, I don't think it's that important. I think we're kind of past the point that some random warlord that lost to Ace is that hype to me in the story, you know, because it's just like, it's not that, like, it's not like we're talking about a Yonko or something like that. Like, we're just at a certain point in the story where it'd be like, oh, it'd be cool if we could see who that was, but you're not exactly talking about like a top tier character or anything at this point. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. L says, Morj foresaw Bonnie joining the crew. It's happening. I did do the video talking about Bonnie joining and how it really seemed like she was set up to join at the beginning of Egghead. And then over the course of Egghead, I started to doubt that. I was like, I don't know if she's joining. I don't know if we're getting that. But now I'm kind of like, actually, let me do a poll real quick. I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Do you guys think that Bonnie's joining? Now, I don't know. I think it's really difficult. Will Bonnie become a crewmate? The two things that have happened that are making me swing back in the direction of like, okay, there's a good shot that she joins, is one, we're getting her sad backstory and everything like that. And two, we're getting, what do you call? We have there's actually a role that's open for her on the crew now that is a traditional role on pirate ships, on you know, just ships in general, which is cabin boy, cabin girl. We've seen other ships have apprentices, kids and such on their ships. So now that, like, the funny thing is that now that we found out she's a kid, that makes it more, that actually helps the argument that she might be a crewmate. So there's been a few things recently that have made me feel like, okay, this might actually be happening. I don't know. Let me ask you guys. I still don't think it's a guarantee either way. It's just, okay, now we're maybe back to it being a decent chance. All right, we're at a 54, 53, 50. Okay, so people are pretty split down the middle. People are pretty split down the middle. Pretty split. Yeah, that's about as split as it gets. I mean, 55, 45, 50, 50. That's basically what we're looking at right now. I think that's a good place to be at, right? Keeps it interesting. Nobody think like it's not a guarantee either way. Oda keeps us guessing. It wasn't someone that people initially ever had penciled down for crew. Like, I don't think we were reading Saboti and we're like, oh, this character's obviously joining or anything. So I think this is a good spot to be at. Yeah, it's near 50-50. Imagine says if she joins, the Sanji hate will start again. I think Oda's got to be very careful with how he writes Sanji from here on. I already think that... I don't... The Bonnie discussion is one that needs to be had at some point. It just does. But it's... Because you can't go back and read earlier parts of Egghead and how she's drawn and depicted and not cringe. You just can't. Yeah, you just can't. And how she's drawn and depicted from here on is going to be its own question. But I don't know. Like, I think most would agree that Egghead... Like, literally, this was a topic of discussion for a while, right? A topic of discussion towards the beginning of Egghead, when Robin, Nami, and Bonnie, when they're all getting their Egghead outfits, it was like, holy shit, Oda's going, like, full heart, like, these are the most sexualized outfits Oda's ever done for an arc. People were going nuts over it, right? A lot of jokes, lots of talking. Like, that was a key talked about point of discussion earlier in the arc, and back then it was all lighthearted and jokes and such. It was like, damn, Oda's really got these women walking around basically in their underwear this arc. That's not funny now, though. It's like, that's the arc. He chose that to be the attire of the arc that he introduces Bonnie being... He reveals that Bonnie's a child in, right? Like, it's just weird timing. Weird timing. Yeah, but we'll just... It's a discussion for another... Not for today. Not for today. Summarization, thanks for the 5. I noticed it, especially with Sanji's zombie being exactly like him instinctively. My guess is it will be the same with Hancock Seraphim by the end. Yeah, I really didn't think about the similarities between the zombies and Seraphim, even though the arcs are tightly tied together in a sense. Like, that's the first arc that we learned about pacifistas. That's the first arc that we learned about, or at least about the Pacifista Project. That's the first arc that we learned about Vegapunk. That is a really, really interesting idea that the entire arc was about zombies, right? Free will, in a sense. And then the arc ends with us being introduced to this guy who is basically this obedient zombie-like servant for the world government, created by Vegapunk. Vegapunk is like the world government's version of Hogback, in a sense. That is really, really interesting. Vegapunk's like the world government's Hogback. Well, that's a random thought, but yeah, I mean, definitely makes you appreciate Thriller Bark more, so I like that observation a lot. And then also the fact that you're right, the zombies showed a lot of the initial individual's personality quite a bit, much like the Seraphim show such strong traces of their individual, you know, their original's personality so much, right? And it kind of conflicts with their actions. Like, Sanji's zombie wouldn't hit a woman, and then Hancock's Seraphim couldn't bring herself to go against Luffy. It's interesting. True, Bonnie is also already a captain, but at the same time, those are kind of just like the adults that helped her when she was a kid. So I don't think the viewer is like a real captain in that sense. I don't know. Oh, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. L, thanks for the 5. Have you seen the stone Mercury is tied to is emerald and Venus is diamond? Zoro cuts diamond and Jupiter is yellow sapphire. That I think it links with Sanji. Interesting. Hold on. Wait, okay. Let's see. So Mercury... That's cool, because Mercury is the one that in the video I dropped about the Seraphim, Mercury's the one that I thought would fight Dragon. And you're saying that, and Dragon we kind of associate with the color green. I guess we do with Zoro too, but Diamond also makes sense. Um, Yellow being Sanji's color, that'd be cool. I like that. I like that. Uh, yeah. I like that. I mean, we're probably going too far with some of these assumptions here, but that's an interesting little correlation. I think I like it because it fits what I already believed would happen, which was I did think that Zoro's fighting Venus Juro Diamond. Zoro's talked about that before. Um, I thought that Dragon would fight Mercury, and Mercury's color being emerald, which the color we kind of associate with Dragon. I like that. Um, and then Sanji getting a Gorosei fight. I would love to see that. I don't know if that's necessarily in the cards for him, but I would love to see it. Shattered Glass, thanks a lot. Maybe Emu will nuke Elbaf. I think that they don't get their hands on more Mother Flames necessarily. I mean, they could. That would make things dramatic. But nuking Elbaf, so all the poor giants have to evacuate Elbaf, their homeland. They're gonna be pissed. Maybe that's motivation for them to go fight the world government. That would be cool. That would be cool. So you think that they get, in that case, you're saying that they successfully get York. They kind of need to get York, because, like, otherwise, what happens to York? Does York die? Why do I think that York dying would be really weird when I'm cool with, like, all of the, like, so many other Vegapunks have died, and it's like, okay, they're just Vegapunks, they don't count. But York, I guess, feels more like an independent character, so it feels like, damn, Oda's not... That's so weird, because I'm like, oh yeah, Oda killed Shaka, he killed Atlas, right? He's just been killing some Vegapunks left and right. I'm like, these aren't real deaths. But in my mind, I'm like, holy shit, is he gonna kill York? Because, like, York seems like a real individual, independent character, right? I don't associate York with being just a Vegapunk anymore. In my mind, York's a person. So, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, York's a person. Yeah, to me, it's just like, oh shit, is York gonna be the first villain that Oda outright has killed, right, in the story? Does that make sense? It just feels weird. Just feels weird. But they need to do something to York, right? Because either York is, like, do they just keep York captive on the ship forever? I don't think that makes sense. Does her mind get reabsorbed back into Vegapunk's mind? I don't know. Does York die? Feels dramatic to me, but I mean, it's happened to so many other Vegapunks, it shouldn't be dramatic, right? Or does York get retrieved by the world government? Which would be good for dramatic purposes. They get access to more Mother Flames, but then the world government with a bunch of Mother Flames is basically unbeatable, right? I don't know. A lot of unpredictable options here. One of the biggest fun aspects of Egghead is just how unpredictable it is. Ray Chia, thanks. Do you think Shanks will fight Garling? I don't know. I feel like it makes sense for Shanks to fight Garling, but it's also just like, it feels kind of just like I want Shanks to fight somebody else that's more, I don't know. Like, Garling just seems like old Shanks. So I'm like, I just watch Shanks beat up old Shanks. We don't even know if Garling in his prime was as strong as Shanks. So, like, is old Shanks even going to be that exciting? I don't know. Like, I'm sure that it would be really cool character-wise for Shanks. And we could learn something about his character there. Very dramatic personal fight for him. But I don't know. We also know that the Holy Knights are going to be out and about in the world pretty soon, right? Doing things because they're after the Revolutionary Army. So I feel like Garling either fights Shanks or he fights Dragon. I feel like the fight goes to one of those two. It just seems like that makes sense to a degree. And I guess Shanks is more likely of the two. Or maybe it would mean more. I don't know. Gametheus, thanks for the 10. I've only seen spoilers for Egghead, but I think Oda's been building up Shanks versus Luffy. I mean, I talk about that in the most recent video I dropped, if you want to check that out. I also think that there will be an arc after Luffy finds the One Piece, incited by the Discovery. What do you think? Yeah, 100%. I don't know if... I suggest watching the most recent video I put out because I talk quite a bit about both the things you just discussed. I do think that Luffy will fight Shanks. I don't think as villains, but I think that Shanks will stand as a sort of trial or test for Luffy in some sense. Very likely, in my opinion, at Elbaf. And I think that I feel like One Piece finding Laughdale is the penultimate challenge before freeing the world. So I would agree that that's the order of events, and it's something that was even foreshadowed in Whitebeard's speech and in many other parts post time skip. Whitebeard's speech before he died, and I think a lot of post time skip has kind of suggested that it's going to be after the One Piece is found that they're going to take on the world government. Talha, thanks a lot. Kuma and Sanji, only two characters we know from birth to today. That can't be right. Momonosuke. I swear there's probably more examples, right? Alan Sanji, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. Congrats on the 200k. Thank you very much. Just wanted to ask, have you caught up with Invincible? No, I've not caught up with Invincible yet. I'm going to let the full season play out, and then I'll probably watch it. If people say that Season 2 is as good as Season 1, then I'll watch it. Crow Stray God, thanks for the 10. Evening, Morj. I wanted to run by some potential advanced hockey abilities with you. All right, let's hear him. Flight/levitation. Oh, shit, yeah. Because One Piece has already delved into the territory of characters flying around during their fights. It's just a thing now. Like, Luffy's last 2 fights have been against flying opponents. Luffy and Kaido are flying through the sky. Luffy and Kizaru are flying around through the sky. Even Luffy versus Lucci were flying around basically their entire fight. It's just various characters have different reasons to be flying, but at a certain point it's just like maybe Oda just makes it a thing that you can do with hockey, because not everyone's gonna have a built-in technique for flying. Like, can Shanks fly? He shouldn't be able to, as far as we know. I can't imagine Mihawk flying for some reason. It just seems so I can't imagine him and Zoro flying around and fighting, because Zoro, I guess the way I associate Zoro is more of more grounded. He's not just, I don't know, more grounded, just high attack power. He kind of the best he can do in the air is kind of use his swords to launch himself a bit, like he did at the end of the King fight. But it feels weird to think of Zoro just zipping around through the sky like he's Kaido or Sanji or something like that. But in theory, I could see it just because it's a trend that One Piece is heading towards. So many of the recent fights have been aerial. Telepathy. I don't know about that one. Telekinesis. Telepathy and telekinesis. Here's the thing with telepathy. It should be... there's no reason that it shouldn't be on the cards, just because observation hockey is already... initially, it was almost like mind reading when it was introduced in Mantra. It was practically like mind reading. And then, we get further developments of it, seeing the future, stuff like that. I feel like telepathy shouldn't be too far off. It should be in the realm of possibility. Telekinesis, I don't know about that one. Because I'm like, what does that fall under? Telepathy, it's that could fall under observation hockey. Telekinesis, I don't know about that one. But I could see more advanced hockey attacks, that are, I could see hockey blasts, or people call me, people are like, oh, there's never going to be a hockey construct. I'm like, fucking Ashura already exists. It's already a thing. I could see more advanced uses of hockey that are not just coating one's fist. Permanently removing a Devil Fruit user's abilities. I don't think that's a thing. I think that'd be kind of wild. It would also make Devil Fruit users just, why? Do I have any wild theories? Yeah, I think my biggest thing has always just been, I think that, I think there's no reason that, large hockey blasts wouldn't be a thing down the line in the story, because, we're already fucking close. Look at Galaxy Impact. It's so close to just a giant hockey blast. It's just like a hockey bomb instead of a hockey blast or something like that, right? I think there's no reason that hockey blast couldn't be a thing very soon. We're not close to the top tier of hockey just yet. And I think more hockey constructs or hockey forms or transformations could be a thing at the top level, because Ashura already exists. Ashura is clearly, it's a form that's created out of hockey. So I think other top tier characters could do that soon. Ray Chia, thanks for the 2. Oh no, we covered this. Oh, let's get the stream likes to 300. We're almost there. Sean Easton asks, thanks for the 5. Where's Kuma's soul? His soul. It's not in his current body. Maybe the ancient robot could explain his reaction to Gear Fifth. I thought Kuma's soul. I feel like one, I don't understand. I mean, soul stuff is not 100% explained in One Piece because we've got two characters that touch on the subject, right? Brook and Big Mom with their abilities, but it's not really fully explained what it means to have a soul. Vegapunk talked about that to a degree. But is Kuma's soul just gone from his body? You think it's in the ancient robot right now? Because that's really interesting. But then how's Kuma's body currently working? Right? How's his body? Like, he's moving with some level of directive or goal. So how could he be moving with his soul fully removed? Was it confirmed last chapter that Kuma's soul is no longer in his body? Does that timeline add up? That it's gone now? Hawkeye Fighter, thanks a lot. Because why would Vegapunk then be surprised at the ancient robot waking up? Or was Vegapunk even surprised? Maybe he wasn't. Why would Vegapunk put the soul in there? I don't know. A lot of questions. Hi, Morj. I think Kuma's orders to go to Fuchsia should answer why world government ignored Nika Fruit. Maybe Kuma got orders to check up on it and kill that person. Yeah, I mean, that's possible, but I also think that it's not really necessary for the world government to be obsessed with killing the person or capturing the Nika Fruit. I think if they were, then they would have made way more attempts on Luffy's life than what they did, because they really went lax on him. You know, like, if Nika Fruit is that important to them, they could have just sent literally anybody in to catch it. Like, Kizaru could have caught him, like, as soon as he left East Blue or something like that, you know? And it's not like Nika's, like, a taboo subject that they can't tell an admiral about. Like, Kizaru knew about the Nika Fruit when Luffy appeared with the Nika Fruit, you know? He's like, oh, this is the legendary Nika Fruit. So if it was that important to them, then they could have sent somebody at any point to get him. Again, what I've personally assumed is just that people, like, it's been 800 years. Nobody's ever awakened the Nika Fruit. It probably gets passed around all the fucking time. Like, people eat it, people die, people eat it, people die. I assume that the Gorosei aren't at a point where they're freaking out over every single person that eats the Nika Fruit and treating it like a top priority. But they would just like to have it in their hands if they could. That's kind of my assumption at this point in time. It's the only way that it really makes sense. And I think it makes sense because just, it's been 800 years, right? No one's awakened it. At a certain point, you're not obsessive about it anymore, right? Yukon John, thanks for the 5. Hope you've been good, Morj. Thank you very much. You too. I see Gantz on the shelf behind you. I think it's one of the most underrated manga. What are your thoughts on it? Gantz was one of my favorite fucking manga to read. I really, really loved reading that when it used to come out. I believe it was monthly that it was coming out. And it's like, I just wish that, it's a series that really, it thrived in two contexts. I feel like it's very similar to Attack on Titan in a lot of ways. Very similar to Attack on Titan in terms of the reasons that people get interested in it, because a lot of it is it's very dark, dealing with monsters, characters with characters training to deal with monsters, horrific beings, etc., that are terrorizing them, etc. But then at the same time, it's driven by a lot of lore and not lore, by a huge amount of mysteries and questions of why is this happening, what's going on, why is this happening, right? Gantz is so much fun to read for the mystery and for just shock value, surprises, like seeing horrific, like dark sci-fi monstrosities being fought. The tone of the series, the atmosphere, it's really, really, really like, it's like borderline horror action. It's really, really cool. A lot of gory stuff, a lot of death, a lot of violence, etc. Really, really like crazy, like, I don't know, Berserk, Attack on Titan-esque series, somewhere in the middle of that. But the final arc, where so many of the mysteries were answered and we got the reveals and everything like that, and just the villains of the final arc, huge disappointment. I did not find the answers to the questions that we were looking at and building the entire series towards. I did not find them that interesting or satisfying. I thought some aspects were really, really cool, like the being slash species that was behind the whole thing, but the final villains themselves that they went up against in the final arc that were attacking Earth. It was just boring. It was like the least interesting concept you could have had, in my opinion. And I understand if like thematically it's good or whatever, but that's not what I was reading Gans for, to be honest. I wanted some dope ass monsters and some really, really interesting answers to the questions that we had, but it was all kind of by the numbers. So the ending really hurt it for me. But Gans is a series where like you can go back and pick up an individual arc and just enjoy that arc for what it is, because each arc is basically a survival game. So I can just read that survival game and enjoy it. And that's what I got on the shelf. It's my favorite arc from Gaunt's. It's the volumes for that. John678, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months. I'm just going to shout out to everybody here again. If you're interested in trying out the Pirate King podcast, if you have some questions that you want to submit for that are One Piece related, not One Piece related, YouTube related, not anime manga related, other anime manga related, whatever it may be, life related, go to the Pirate King podcast. You can try Pirate King tier. You can submit there. And there's an hour-long podcast where I answer everybody very in-depth, more so than I would on stream. Submissions for that are happening literally right now. So the submission form just went up. So again, if you want to join as Pirate King tier, you can join up right now, and then just submit it on YouTube. It's up to you. Like, submit as in just post your comment that you want answered on YouTube, and then you get the podcast next week. So for anyone that's interested, so John, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months. People keep saying that finding the One Piece and getting the Laugh Tale is the final thing that happens. Imagine the One Piece not being integral to the story. Example, a stupid party or sake cup. Fuck bitches. Zoro. Fuck bitches. Zoro greater than Luffy. All right. So let's take that apart real quick. I do think that I'm surprised. I didn't know that most people are saying that finding the Laugh Tale is the final thing. I thought that most people were on board with the idea that the One Piece comes first and then the final war. I thought most people were on board with that idea, that the world government, Emu, etc. are the final villains. Beyond that, I think that the One Piece has to be integral to the story. It would be funny if it's a stupid party or something like that. Oh wait, I see. You're kind of taking digs at people who have. I do think that the One Piece does have to be something more than something kind of symbolic or just fun, personally. And I think that Oda has implied that it's something more than just something that would be enjoyable for the symbolism of it, I guess. He said that in an interview, that it wouldn't just be something like friendship, which essentially would be what sake cups or a party would kind of represent. But I wouldn't be surprised if like those ideas come into play at the end of the story. As for Zoro greater than Luffy, no comment. I don't know what you mean there. I think you can look at the current Zoro versus Lucci fight and basically say that I don't think that that's true. Zoro needs to get it together against Lucci, because in this saga, he needs to defeat Mihawk, probably turn all his blades black, become the world's strongest swordsman. He's got a lot of work to do. He needs to get his shit together against Lucci. Like, he cannot be stuck on this guy right now. And yeah, I'm sure that Zoro's not going all out or whatever, but like, he's clearly trying. Like, it's not like he's like casual. It's not like he's handling him like he's like Pika or Hyozo or something like that. Zoro would clearly like the fight to be over. Hawkeye Fighter, thanks a lot. Hi, Morj. I think Kuma's orders to go to Fuchsia. No, we covered this. Yukon John, thanks for the 5. Hope you've been good, Morj. I see. No, we covered this. Attilio, now we're caught up. Thanks for the 2. Morj, watch Mushoku Tensei. It's peak fiction. Oh, Jobless Reincarnation? I've heard of this. I might try this again. I'm not big on isekai stuff. Part of the reason I'm not big on isekai stuff is because in my mind, like, if you're a loser in real life and then you get transported to another world, like, just the whole concept, you get transported to another world where then you could be cool or a hero or whatever, I'm just like, this doesn't count. This doesn't count. It just doesn't count. Bad username says isekai is all ass. Yeah, I've never really like. No knock on people that enjoy it. I get the appeal of it, but I'm just like, you're not really accomplishing anything if you get transported to another world where then you get to be um not shitty. Anyway, SMX Wing, thanks for the 5. Theory: Usopp gets Paw Paw, sends gang to Elbaf slash uses it to send crew around world and end a story fight. Luffy to Fishman Island, etc. Mirroring Van Augur's power. Usopp getting a fruit, I would rather not. I like what you're saying there, but I would like. I like the idea. It fits Usopp, like in terms of what he does. You know, kind of fits conceptually. But at the same time, I personally like the idea of Usopp always having to be a character that doesn't have that much in terms of powerful abilities or anything like that, and has to work with the simplistic tools that he has. I like him more grounded like that. Having the paw fruit, it's a really strong ability, and with Usopp's sniping skills, if it translates at all, he would be really, really good with it. I think it would. I don't know. I would love to see him actually have to win a sniping battle or something like that, or win a battle with against a decent opponent with the tool set that he has and just his guts, his intelligence, and his observation haki, right? Which he's got a little bit of at this point. To me, those are the type of Usopp victories that matter a lot more than him having a, like, I think it's important that he doesn't get a powerful devil fruit or something. It's kind of like Nami getting Zeus. I'm cool with that for Nami, because I don't think that's ever been necessarily what her winning her fights has been. Like, obviously strategy, etc., it's a big part of it, but she's also always had really, really powerful tools. Like the climb attack was always really, really good, right? Maybe not the first fight against Miss Doublefinger, but by the time she's fighting Khalifa, the climb attack has tremendous potential and ability. Like, she can do amazing things. With Usopp, I feel like the fights are always the opposite in terms of, like, he's got lots of really simple, gimmicky stuff that's not really strong and can't really produce really powerful effects like lightning or anything like that. And he's really got to work with what he's got. Like, he's just got to put shit together and figure it out. I like that a lot better than him having the paw fruit, personally. I would love to see someone like Vivi pick up the paw fruit, but I don't know. I'm not saying that Usopp getting the paw fruit, it wouldn't happen. I think it's totally, yeah, it's possible, because I do think that Kuma dies, so I think the paw fruit goes to somebody. But I just don't know if it's like, I don't know, if it's going to go to Usopp. Spade, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. So does Kuma just not have the memories that Bonnie saw? Does he still know her? I'm confused why he would be coming to Egghead if he didn't. That is a very good question, Spade. I think my only answer would be, I think he doesn't really have his mind. He might just have one sort of prime directive that he's kept for himself in his head of, like, I need to do this, or like some very faint idea or understanding that I need to go back to Egghead, I need to go back to see my daughter, something like that. Yeah. Otherwise, he should probably be needing his memories, I would agree. Rodolfo, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 9 months. Hope you're looking forward to the podcast that's coming out. Hope you got your submission in. I like the idea that the One Piece is sake, food, or gifts, or treasure from each island in the world that represents it. It is the true treasure that the world has to offer. I'm not going to say anything about the treasure idea for or against. I know that Arthur put out a really big theory about that, and I think that that's what probably popularized it, and a lot of the discussion is driven from. I don't think as far as I can recall, did I watch the theory at some point? I feel like I watched one of Arthur's theories on this channel, on a stream. I reacted to it. I watched one of his theories. I don't remember if it was that one. But all I can say is, like, whether I watched it or not, I know I watched one of his theories, but if it's a party, if it's a treasure from each island or something like that, I think it would be a nice feel-good sort of reveal. At the same time, is it something that would shake the world the way that Whitebeard said it? Like, is it something that lives up to the idea that the One Piece is the sort of world-changing world-changing item or reveal or something like that. I personally feel like it wouldn't lead up to that. You could be like, okay, symbolically it fits, but at the same time, it's just like, why did Roger laugh while reading? Like, what's so world changing or dramatic about it? I don't know. Also, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to say anything too harsh because I would need to watch Arthur's Theory again. Like, don't want to be disrespectful. Again, slash first time, I don't know. But, like, maybe there's a really good argument for it, but off the top of my head, I personally don't like that. Like, I wouldn't want it to be just that. SMX Wing, thanks for the... No, we covered this. L says, hey, have you all watched Netflix Pluto? It looks interesting. Yeah, because I have not seen it, but I see it, like, advertised, whatever it is. Like, Netflix has it on their front, like, their front page, right? So I see it there. Is it good? Can anyone confirm, is Pluto good? Is it really good? I would like to try it, but it's just... Is it good? I'll try it if it's good. If you guys have any input on it. Emmanuel, thanks for the 5. Do you think any other Strahds will get a second backstory like Sanji? I think Usopp very well could. Because we're going to Elbaf. Yasop is there. We understand very little of Usopp in his past. What did he go through? Like, what are his real feelings about Yasop? Him not having a mom, his dad abandoning him, right? What are his feelings there? What, like, do we get to see a bit more of how Usopp felt growing up? I don't know. I think that would be good. I never felt like Zoro needed another backstory. I just felt it was weird that it was built up as important in the Wano arc. Like, you're dropping so many hints about a character's past. There's no need to do that, or even write that he's from Wano, or even write any of that, like the Ryuma connection, etc., if it's just not relevant to the story at all, because then you're just adding information for the sake of... You're adding information that leads down exciting paths and then not leading to any exciting paths. It's just, there's no reason to add it, basically. So I don't think Zoro needed one, but it would also have just been better to leave him as who he was, who we believed him to be before the Wano arc. Luffy technically already got 2 flashbacks. I think Nami doesn't need another flashback. I don't know. It's good. What's Pluto about? What's Pluto about? Someone explain Pluto. Really good. I'm seeing good things too. What's Pluto about? It's a manga first? I thought it's a Netflix original. Pluto starts great, but I don't think it properly delivers on its mysteries. What is Pluto about? Someone's got to explain Pluto. What's the deal? Sabian Rob says Morj missed my super chat. No, I didn't. I'll catch it in a second. What's Pluto? Someone explain. I need to know. Somebody did mention in the stream a while ago that maybe the Rima plotline plays a role down the line if Zoro goes up against the Gorosei, something like that, and they remember Ryuma, and it's something relevant there. Sci-fi detective story based on World War on Astro Boy. Somebody else says World War II. Quiet says it's a dog. Same mangaka as Monster? Really? Interesting. But I've heard Monster's ending or conclusions are not... Wait, this same manga... Oh, okay, you guys are talking about this guy. I forgot that he's the same person that did 20th Century Boys and Monster and Pluto. Is there any other mangaka that's got like a resume like that? Oh, Vagabond's author, right? Vagabond's author. He also wrote several acclaimed manga. Alright, maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe I'll give it a try. Is Pluto better than Monster and 20th Century Boys? I looked up Pluto and the planet came up. Sorry, not a planet. Whatever the fuck it is now. Alright, Sabian Rob, thanks for the 5. I'm still catching up on supers, so just give me a second. I didn't forget. Sabian Rob, thanks for the 5. Mork, what... This makes me wish I skipped your super. What do you think Kuma's next mission is? Do you think the world government caught on to Nika when Luffy was still a child? I'm thinking it's definitely... Okay, let me look at that panel again. Let me look at that panel. Let's take a look at the panel. So, what specifically are they asking of him? What specifically are they asking? In the East Blue, what are my orders? Yeah, maybe it is to take out Nika. It just seems very, very possible. But then that I hope that's not the reason, because then it raises so many questions as to, like, why did they never attempt this again if it was this important to them, you know? I don't know. Maybe it's just to take out Nika. Maybe that's it. I think it's possible. How would they even have found out? How would they even have found out? Maybe it's because that's where Dragon originates from, so they're sending him there for something Dragon related, not Nika related. I don't know. Brayden, thanks for the 10. A theory of mine is that Roger and Garp were protecting the Celestial Dragons, because if they were attacked, the Navy would kill everyone on the island, and they both valued innocent lives over attacking the Celestial Dragons. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Like, that's a little too many conditionals, I think. Like, okay, we can't allow Celestial Dragons to die. Because, like, Roger and Garp, they came in... Like, Roger came in with an agenda. Like, there was something that he was trying to get back or something like that. Or it seemed like he was interested in the treasure. It seemed like a lot of it came down to the treasure. So it's like, we have to protect the Celestial Dragons or else the Navy... Like... The Navy will kill everyone here. That just seems too tangential to me to create a strong motivation to definitely have to save the Celestial Dragons. I don't know. Maybe Uranus was going to be fired or something like that. That seems a bit stronger if we're going that route, but I really can't tell. Crow Stray God, thanks for the 10. If you could pick a Straw Hat, not counting the East Blue 5, to have the same level of character development as Kuma before the story ends, who would it be? To me, it'd have to be between Chopper and Brook. If I'm being honest, like, they all have had that, though. They've all had that. Like, Chopper's had his backstory. He's had all, like, the Straw Hats have all pretty much had that same level of development, right? They've all gotten backstories of varying degrees, right? Some of them maybe shorter backstories, but then they got longer storylines and character arcs and such later on. Like, Chopper... You could say Kuma's backstory, you think, is a little bit sadder than Chopper's backstory, but Chopper's still got a very, like, a great, iconic, memorable backstory. The simple difference is that these characters have stuck around for so long with gradually diminishing focus, right? You can't really compare him to Kuma, because with Kuma, it's like, right now he's getting his time, that he's getting his backstory, that we're learning about him, etc., but he's not a mainstay throughout One Piece. You know, if they just stuck Kuma on the crew for 1,100 chapters, then I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, yeah, his significance starts to diminish or something like that, right? Chopper has the same level of focus and character, right? I guess Kuma's... Not everybody has the same level as Kuma, because Kuma, we get his full life, and it's just more fleshed out and more layered, but I'm not sitting there thinking, like, man, the thing missing from Chopper is he needed an even more elaborate backstory. You know what I mean? If you're saying, like you get what I'm saying, like, Oda already did the work for Chopper. He did the work for Chopper, he did the work for Nami, he did the work for Robin, right? The problem is not, they technically got the same level of foundation for their characters as Kuma. You could say you like Kuma's better, his seems even more developed, sure, but that's not really where I feel like the failing of Chopper or Brook or whoever it is. It's more so just, what do you do with them afterwards? And Kuma's not going to have that problem simply by virtue of the fact that he's really just a main character for this one arc, and he's probably not going to be in the story that much longer, right? It's not the same thing, I don't think. Manny, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, love your videos. Plus, it's my first super chat. Yay, thank you, Manny. Everybody say thanks to Manny. What do you think will happen to Big Mom's crew, assuming she's dead? Kaido's crew is in jail. Kaido's crew's in jail. It's funny because, like, the only reason I think that Kaido's crew is in jail line is funny is because, I don't know, lots of times people make jokes like, oh, this, I don't know. Kaido's crew has actually just been put in jail. I can't explain why that's funny, but, like people make jokes like, oh, this person's in jail, that person's in jail, like about real people. They make those jokes all the time. Like sometimes I'll show up to the stream and when people are chatting like, where's Morj? Oh, he's probably in jail, or he was put in jail or something. I don't know. But Kaido's crew is actually in jail, right? Big Mom's crew, assuming she's dead. What do I think will happen? They're just like a big floating missing piece right now. Kind of like, I'm like, what the fuck happened to the Whitebeard pirates? I don't think the Big Mom pirates fall apart though. I would love if like Whole Cake, because Totterland's not a bad place. It sucked that they have to give up a bit of their lifespans, but for the most part, it was a good like empire. Like people were fucking happy at Totterland. I would like if they could kind of keep it that way, and just Katakuri takes over, and I think he would be fitting to take over that place, right? MGX Heat, thanks for the 5. Would Usopp dying in battle be a good end to his story? In my opinion, if it's going out in battle in a very noble way, ideally to save his crewmates, I think that would be the perfect end to his story. Because he talked about what he already viewed as the perfect end to his story. He told us it at Little Garden. He said, like, if I can, like, die somewhere and feel that I'm going out as a brave warrior of the sea, I can die happy, right? He's already said this is my ideal way to go out, right? So because of that, I think just a moment where he could ideally save the crew or do something really heroic or something like that, save everybody, and he could die knowing that he went out living as a brave warrior of the sea. Like the manner in which he went out was undeniably like the epitome of bravery. I think that's really powerful. It adds a lot of dramatic punch to the story for us readers. I think it just does a lot. It adds a lot of drama to the final saga, very emotional for us readers, and just very powerful, but also like it's a tragic but happy ending for Usopp, which I think is very fitting for a One Piece character to go out like. Hawkeye Fighter, thanks. Morj, what do you think the main theme of Egghead's story is? There's a couple, but without going into it too much, I think we could just say, like, let's leave it at this. I think dreams and also free will / individuality versus obedience. So those are the two main things that it's kind of revolving around as far as I can tell. But there's more to it than that. L, thanks for the 2. Zoro deserved a second backstory in Wano. Again, I don't think I ever really felt like I needed to see a second backstory from him. Once stuff started getting planted about Zoro's heritage and the fact that he's probably from here and characters drawing comparisons to his predecessors, etc., then I started thinking, okay, it's probably important we learn about this. Otherwise, why are you doing this for the character? Like, why are you setting this up if it's just like random bullshit? But what I do think Zoro deserved was a good storyline in Wano, which is just really strange because he got a good amount of panel time. It's just, it didn't really develop into a coherent story, and pretty much nothing that was being built up around him from Act 1, Act 2 really played into what his fight against King was about, which was just about learning to like fight with greater reckless abandon in the moment, essentially, and kind of give in to nearly dying to Enma's drainage of his sword. It's like it's like two disconnected stories. What happened with the King fight versus what was going on with his narrative in Act 1 and Act 2 is very disconnected. So just a better story for Zoro, I think, overall. Umair Ula, thanks for the 2. Amazing chapter. So excited to see Gear 5th because of Kuma. You think, yeah, I mean, once we cut back, we'll get to see Gear 5th because of Kuma. Most likely Kuma healing Luffy. I think that's something that's been sounding really good to me for a while, ever since it was suggested in stream. So I do hope that we get to see that, and I hope that for Kuma's sake, he gets to see that and process it and understand it. Which I'm sure he will. Like, Oda's going to have Kuma go out on, like, a happy-ish note, I assume, if Kuma dies, like, getting to see what he wanted to see before his story ends. We can do a few more, and then I kind of got to end stream. Fatingo, thanks for the 5. Frankie and Brooke need deeper character explorations. They really do. I could have said Frankie for the previous question, but Frankie got a good backstory. Like, we understood the character well. I just feel like Frankie, the character now, is just... It's practically like a parody of what he once was. Like, you understand they're the same character, but one is just a much... What we have right now just feels like a much flatter, more two-dimensional version of the more fleshed out figure we once had. we've had and Brooke, in my opinion, never got the depth that the other Straw Hats did in the first place. So whereas Frankie became more two-dimensional compared to what he once was, I feel like Brooke, we never really went as in depth in fleshing him out in initially. So he's felt consistent to me across the story, but consistently less developed than everyone else. We've had development and important characterization with other Straw Hats and other points of the story. Yeah, I think Frankie definitely needs a big moment. People argue that Brooke got a big moment in Whole Cake Island. I think there's a difference between getting cool moments versus moments that develop your character and add depth to your character. And I don't think that Brooke really did that much in Whole Cake Island. Character-wise, I don't like, not plot-wise, what did he do? Because he did do stuff, important stuff, but fleshing out his character, developing his character, I don't think that happened much in Whole Cake Island. Andrew Chung says, Morj, have you been bulking? I mean, I've like I go to the gym fairly regularly, but at the same time, here's a caveat, which is I haven't really been trying to increase I haven't really been trying to push myself to increase, like I think for the last year, literally, I've probably just been comfortable with exactly where I am. So I just go to the gym enough to maintain that. Does that make sense? Because to keep building mass, you do need to change your diet. You do need to, like, you need to do certain extra things that I'm not really interested in doing. I'm kind of happy with, like, when I started going to the gym, which was a few years back, right? I was just like, okay, I want to hit like a certain point where I feel good with myself. And then once I hit that, I've basically been fine with that since then. Does that make sense? So I could keep, trying to push, add more weight, etc. Change my diet, keep adding more protein or something. But it's a pain in the ass. So I basically go to the gym enough that I maintain, which is basically ideal. That's basically it. Luca greater than, but what's going on right now? All right, we're going to call stream soon. Teddy says, so you've been maintaining the same intensity, huh? Yeah, like I haven't added weight to, I think, any of my exercises really in, I don't know, some months. There are times where if I go on, not vacation, but like I went out of town for like 2 weeks, you remember, for like wedding stuff and seeing family or whatever. And then when I came back, I had to try a little harder to get back, but to what I was. But it's literally just like the difference between 5 pounds here or there, basically, in terms of what you can lift. Like I've basically been pretty much exactly where I've been at for a long time, because I respect everybody that works really hard on, like, it is not easy to get really, really strong, like a lot of people are, like really, really jacked, really, really ripped, because you got to do so much, you got to work out a lot, you got to really eat. I'm not that type of person. Once I'm happy with where I'm at, I think, like once I'm happy with like the way I look, my body, etc., I'm just like, yeah, that's good enough for me. I'm just gonna do enough to maintain this, and then there's nothing more to that. What happened with what's going on right now? Suns game? Avs game? There's no games going on, right? What are you guys even arguing about? There's nothing going on right now. Holy shit, the Bucks Bulls game is really tight though. Not that I care. Okay, we're gonna end stream now. Yeah, we're gonna end stream now. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. I really appreciate it. We have another chapter next week, which I think is this more than 3 chapters in a row that we've had? I guess we'll have a break after the next one. I'm not sure. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys pretty soon. Peace.